Free Radio is a member-run station located in Union Square, Somerville. Your voice, your music, your station. To learn how you can host your own radio show, contact manager at bostonfreeradio.com.
You want free speech? I got your free speech right here. It's all about free speech, baby. bostonfreeradio.com.
Welcome to Boston Free Radio's Thought of the Day radio show. Today we have another week. We've gotten through another week. Hope everyone is well. Today we're just going to start with the Torah portion and see what's going on in our world today. I hope everyone's well and surviving. So let's jump right in. So this week we have Torah portion Nitzavim, Deuteronomy 29, 9 through 30, verse 20. This is from the FFOZ website. And some people do not like FFOZ. But just before we jump into this, I would like to talk a little bit about what I've been up to all this week. On my Facebook page, I've been dealing with a lot of flame wars going on theologically. I've been also involved with the local ministry that is very interesting. Goes to just want to get permission to tell you about them, but I will come back to that. But what they do is they go to different bars in Somerville and different restaurants and whatnot, and they talk theology amongst themselves and invite their friends to come in. And this week we were talking about sexuality and gender identity issues and things like that. Thought it was quite interesting. I thought it was very interesting that people would just have some sort of... I mean, I know the home church movement is very popular, but I've never just kind of gone out and hung out with people, unless it was just close friends of mine, where we would just sit down and talk about theology or go over each other's houses and just talk about theology and the Bible and whatnot. Now most people there, as far as I know, are just average people. They don't have PhDs. I did meet one gentleman that is in seminary. So most people there are just average people who want to talk about average issues and average problems and how God sees it through the Bible. Some more liberal and some more conservative. You have a good mix there. I actually like this very much. It's a summer program here in Somerville, and it's very, very nice. So let's get into it. Deuteronomy 29, 9 through 30, 20. And we're going to just read through the portion, and then we'll see what's going on in our world that has something to do with it. And I'm on the fly here. I actually have not read this. I've actually been studying some other things. Like I said, I've been talking about flame wars and things like that. I've been debating an atheist on one of my Facebook groups for the past week, actually, past 2 or 3 days, actually. It's been kind of interesting. Maybe we'll hit on that later on in the show. So here we go. Therefore, keep the words of this covenant and do them, that you may prosper in all that you do. You are standing today, which is why it's called Nitzavim. You are standing, all of you, before the Lord your God, the heads of your tribes, your elders and your officers, all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and the sojourners who is in your camp, from the one who chops your wood to the one who draws your water. That means everybody in the community. Stop there for 1 second. It's been voting season now, and I do not subscribe to one or the other party. I've sort of been raised to be independent. I've taken a look at Green Party. I used to be really, really involved in politics, and I don't really get too involved anymore. Except that I, do a little commentary like I'm doing now. But as far as endorsing certain people, I do have someone that is a friend of mine that I knew from elementary school, actually, that is in local politics. Perhaps we'll have him on the show soon. Now, it just seems like, God is telling Moses here, everybody's included in this. Everybody. From your officials, to your tribesmen, to the person that, your trash man that picks up your trash on Wednesday, to the person that is your elected official. Very, very, very thorough and complete is Torah. So, let's move on. So that you may enter into the sworn covenant of the Lord your God, which the Lord your God is making with you today, that he may establish you today as his people, and that he may be your God as he promised you, and as he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob. It's not with you alone that I am making the sworn covenant, but with whoever is standing here with us today before the Lord our God, and with whoever is here with us today. Again, very complete. And it seems like it's talking about people who are maybe, and this is something that we can look into. This is something we can think about. Is it only what we would call Jewish people today? Ashkenazi Jewish people today? Of course not. They came from a certain land in Mesopotamia. They came out of Egypt. They came out of the lands near Iraq and Iran, which is current day, and or perhaps even Jordan. All of this Fertile Crescent area, which is where the people were created out of. So God created a people. But within that people, it seems that they were other people, perhaps Gentiles. Now, this is something we could look into. Because this week, and I'm going to play some clips of it if it's already up from Be Ready Street Ministries. If not, I will. If not, we'll get into that next week. But it was kind of an adventurous week when it comes to the street ministry. And we had a gentleman. Well, I don't know if I can call him a gentleman, but I hope for the best for him. He was a Hebrew Israelite. Black Hebrew Israelite. And I'm not talking about the Lemba tribe in Ethiopia. I'm talking about those people out there who basically are militant black leaders in the community that are going back around, let's say about 40 years, maybe 40, 50 years. This type of theology based on Esau and Jacob and what happened with that. Esau I have hated, Jacob I have loved. And they build a whole theology based on this. And now the best apologist that I know of that really gets into this is someone named Vocab Malone, who is associated with Acts 17 Ministries, David Wood, and Sam Shamoun, who does a lot of apologetics when it comes to Islam and outreaching to the Muslim community. So we will get into that, but I thought it was relevant when thinking about the mixed multitude. Now, a lot of people don't, subscribe to this because this is our identity. This is the identity. So, me as a Messianic Gentile, as of right now, I'm wearing tzitzit on me. The debate is: should I be wearing tzitzit? Should I not be wearing tzitzit as a Gentile? Am I stealing somebody's identity? And that is what this person was telling us, screaming and yelling, telling us that we have stolen the Jewish identity and that Jews today are no longer the real Jews, and as we've discussed on the show before. But to move on here, going into verse 16, you know how we lived in the land of Egypt and how we came through the midst of all the nations through which you passed. And you have seen the detestable things, the idols of wood and stone and silver and gold which were among them. Beware lest there be among you a man or a woman or clan or tribe whose heart is turning away today from the Lord your God to go and serve the gods of those nations. Beware lest there be among you a root bearing poisonous and bitter fruit. Now, a good commentary on this, just to jump around a little bit. Tim Hegg from Torah Resource Institute, who is a very well-known scholar. I mean, I would like to think he's well-known. But he's very, very knowledgeable. This man, his son Caleb Hegg and Rob. They have a show called Rob and Caleb that I listen to the show all the time. His commentary focuses this week on the bitter root, talking about bitterness. And that's something that we can chew on a little bit later. But to keep going, I just wanted to reference that because that has been helpful to me this week. One who, when he hears the words of the sworn covenant, blesses himself in his heart, saying, I shall be safe, though I walk in the stubbornness of my heart. This will lead to the sweeping away of moist and dry alike. The Lord will not be willing to forgive him, but rather the anger of the Lord and his jealousy will smoke against that man, and the curses written in this book will settle upon him. The Lord will blot out his name from under heaven, and the Lord will single him out from all the tribes of Israel for calamity, in accordance with the curses of the covenant written in this book of the law. And the next generation, your children who rise up after you, and the foreigner who comes from a far land will say, when they see the afflictions of the land and the sickness with which the Lord has made it sick, the whole land burned out with brimstone and salt, nothing sown and nothing growing, where no plant can sprout, and overthrow like that of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and wrath. All the nations will say, why has the Lord done thus to this land? What caused the heat of this great anger? Then people will say, it is because they abandoned the covenant of the Lord, the God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them out of the land of Egypt, and went and served other gods and worshipped them, gods whom they had not known, whom he had not allotted to them. Therefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against this land, bringing upon it all the curses written in this book. And the Lord uprooted them from their land, anger and fury and great wrath, and cast them into another land, as they are to this day. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things that are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. That's pretty heavy. Pretty heavy. Now, I'm going to say that this is why a lot of people are very antinomian, because they say, well, this has nothing to do with the heart. This has nothing to do with, serving Jesus or serving God or grace or love of kindness. And don't you see that the Old Testament is so cruel? The Old Testament is, he's a bitter God. And this goes back to the atheism debate that I've been having with this man who states and claims that he was a Christian at one time, and yet he saw the cruelty of the church, and he saw the cruelty of the Old Testament God, and how bad and how evil is this God that he doesn't believe in. A God that he doesn't believe in, he hates him, but he doesn't believe he exists, or any other God for that matter, except for himself and his own belief system and his own ways. Now, I mean, if you look at what he's warning them against, he's warning them against a bitter fruit, and he's giving them a choice. He's saying, do you want to do this law, or do you not want to do this law? Just sworn covenant. And he's talking about the heart. He says, I shall be safe, though I walk in the stubbornness of my heart. This will lead to the sweeping away of moist and dry alike. The Lord will not be willing to forgive him. Rather, the anger of the Lord and his jealousy will smoke against this man, and the curses be written in this book will settle upon him, and the Lord will blot out his name from under heaven. And I mean, it's very true. It's very true what's written, that people look at the Jewish people and they say, oh, the exile, and even within Judaism itself, coming up to Yom Kippur, it's very appropriate. What we're reading here is we need atonement for our sins. So the question is, and I was watching a debate between Dr. Michael Brown and James White on the YouTube video Atonement Debate. If you look up Atonement Debate, Dr. Michael Brown and Dr. James White. And they were talking about, for whom did Christ die? Did Christ die for a chosen select? Or did Christ die for only the people he knew would get saved, the elect? Now I'm willing to believe, if you look at Romans 9, 10, and 11, you know who the elect is. You know the elect are the Jewish people, whom he goes to first, and then the Gentile, who will come in as grafted in. But it's talking about the stubbornness of the heart and forgiveness. And it's because of his jealousy that the curses will settle upon him. The law of sin and death, not the law itself. When you look at Romans and Galatians, you see that he's talking about sin is the curse. I was out there preaching in Central Square today in Cambridge. Not today, I'm sorry, a couple of days ago on Sunday. And it was just such an interesting time because different people took it different ways. You have some people who know that they are sinners, who know that they have done wrong, and they need that atonement, and they need that forgiveness, and they humble themselves, and they want to get better. And then you have the people who, this man was yelling and screaming in our face saying, no, I'm the oppressed, I'm the one that you are oppressing, get out of my face, you devil. And he's calling us devil. And we're saying, no, it's the hatred within you that is causing all those oppressive feelings and oppressive. When you look outside of yourself and you don't blame yourself for those things, that's when the oppression comes. The oppression comes when you refuse to get rid of the things that you're oppressing yourself with. So we're going to go to a short break, and when we come back, we will continue in our Torah portion and go into the rest of this portion, and perhaps we'll take a short look at the Haftarah and the Brit Hadashah, the Gospels and the Prophets, and then we'll see how this all comes together. And I just want to wish everybody a good time of repentance and a good time of reflection this week as we approach Yom Kippur. Even if you're not Messianic, even if you're not Jewish, that every once in a while we have a time where we just need to reflect and think about things, even as on the regular calendar, as we approach New Year's in a couple of months. So I hope all is well on that.
Greetings, Earthlings. This is Funkatron 5000, the intergalactic space robot. Whenever I cross through the Milky Way, I make sure to tune into Crushed Velvet Soul on BostonFreeRadio.com. 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. every Monday. It's the place I go to get on down and get funky. I think you will too.
Diane Wong here, announcing a new radio program Let's talk about race. From our beginnings as a white supremacist society to our current existence as a white supremacist society, race is a topic that affects us all, and yet we have difficulty talking about it. Why is race so difficult? Why can't we talk openly about white supremacy? Why don't we like to talk about white privilege? Why is internalized oppression shrouded in mystery? What about lynching? What about gerrymandering and the current Black Lives Matters debate? We'll talk about all of it. Come and join us Thursdays from 7 to 8 p.m. Let's talk about race. Boston Free Radio.
Cuando era chiquito, no hablé por mucho tiempo. Era muy sensible a luces y sonidos. A veces hacía las mismas cosas una y otra vez. Un día me enteré que tenía autismo. Mi familia me buscó ayuda y poco a poco aprendí a vivir mejor con ello.
Mientras más pronto se diagnostique, mejor. Conoce las señales en autismspeaks.org/aprende. Presentado por Autism Speaks y el Ad Council.
180/111.
Today the world is born.
All right. So I have the video that I'm talking about when it comes to that man from Harvard, Central Square rather, near Harvard, and we're gonna get into that. We're gonna take a look at what we were talking about in the Torah portion. All right, so this video is entitled on YouTube, Hateful and a Hello Demon. I'm not exactly sure what the hello demon means, but this is what the video was called. I know what hateful means. So here we go. So it's Be Ready Street Ministries on YouTube, published September 3rd, 2018. This was last Sunday. And so the setup here, in case you're just tuning in, this man who is... we asked him if he was Hebrew Israelite, and he just replied and said he was a black man. So, here we go.
Be born again. You need to be born. You need to be born of the Spirit. The Bible says you must be born again. That's why we was born in sin. Drunkenness, idolatry, adultery, fornication, all these different sins. You must be born again.
Now this is him arguing with me.
To enter into the kingdom of God.
He's calling me a devil.
For you to be born again, you got to turn. You got to repent from your sins. Turn from your wicked ways.
You can quote me on that. God don't love everybody. Malachi.
God created everyone, right?
God did not create the
Bible says there's no Jew or Gentile in Jesus Christ. He said there's no animal that is unclean in Jesus Christ. You have a false religion called a religion of hate. Jesus said, unless you love your neighbor.
This is one of our team members, Mike. He is a Russian-born man, raised here in America, and he's actually come from the Philippines. His wife is Filipino. His child is half Filipino and Russian, and so he knows a thing or two about mixing of the races, and let's see what this man has to say about it.
And you my neighbor? Hold on.
I'm right next to you. I'm right next to
you. You my neighbor?
I'm right next to you.
The same people that lynch us, you my neighbor?
I'm right next to you.
The same people that fucking enslave us, the same people that enslave us, you my neighbor? I'm asking you. Hold on. You my neighbor? Hold on, listen.
Where am I?
Hold on. Stop, let me finish. Because you're not a fucking, listen, you are devil. Where you from? You from fucking Satan, you fucking devil.
Oh, really? There you go.
That's what's inside of you. Listen, you don't, what you said?
That's what's inside of you.
What, a devil?
Yeah.
Prove it. I can prove you're a devil.
You're calling me something I know I'm not.
You're not a devil?
I'm not a devil.
What color is Jesus Christ? Thank you. I'm proving my fucking point. The Bible said feet like brass.
I don't know how that proves anything. I've heard this argument since I had become a Christian. This quote from Revelation that his hair is like wool and all of that type of thing, and so we're making the point that, well, what really does it matter? That the new covenant breaks those barriers. This is what defines the new covenant, as opposed to what we're talking about in the old covenant. So this is not that the old covenant is done away with. It's an improvement. It is an amendment on these curses. This man is living under the curse. The curse of hatred and the curse of racism. He's still under the old covenant. And this is what I'm talking about. The antinomianism is in his heart. Because the law is not talking about God wanting anybody to be under this curse. It says in the Lord. So here we go on the forgiveness part. Let's move on here. In 31, repentance and forgiveness. And when all these things come upon you, the blessings and the curse which I have set before you, and you call them to mind among all nations where the Lord your God has driven you, and return to the Lord your God, you and your children, and obey his voice in all that I have commanded you today, with all of your heart and with all of your soul, then the Lord your God will restore your fortunes and mercy on you, and he will gather you again from all the people where the Lord your God has scattered you. This is what this man is talking about. He's saying that they're in his theology. And if you listen to Vocab Malone, he talks about how this originated. He's talking about how the slavery was brought upon them, the black people, because of disobedience. So how is this oppression? The oppression is coming from his own heart. And the Lord your God will restore your fortunes if he repents. If your outcasts are in the outermost parts of heaven, from there the Lord your God will gather you, and from there he will take you, and the Lord your God will bring you to the land that your fathers possessed, that you may possess it. Not be an oppression, that he may possess it. And he will make you more prosperous and numerous than your fathers. And the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring, so that you will love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, that you may live. And the Lord your God will put all of these curses on your foes and your enemies who persecute you. So there's your oppression. And you shall again obey the voice of the Lord, keep all the commandments that I command you today. The Lord your God will make you abundantly prosperous in all the work of your hand, in the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your cattle, and the fruit of your ground. For the Lord will again take the delight in prospering you, as he took delight in your fathers, when you obeyed the voice of the Lord your God, to keep his commandments and his statutes that are written in this book of the law, when you turn to the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul. And we're coming to the last part here, so let's move on with what is happening with this man here.
In the furnace, hair like land wool. You're a devil. The Bible speaks about. I speak
the Bible says. The Bible says.
And you are the defender of a devil. Make you a devil yourself. What's the fuck he said? Know what he said? Know what he just said? I said, we're coming to Jesus Christ. He said, he don't know. The Bible is
God is the Spirit.
I said, Jesus.
Jesus is God. God is.
So now he's talking to our team leader here, who is a black man. So this is a black man talking to a black man, calling him an Uncle Tom, basically.
That was
God is the Spirit.
Entertainment.
So God had 2 feet, he didn't walk the planet? Yes or no?
God can.
Did the Spirit walk the planet? Stop. Let's do reality. Did the Spirit walk the planet, or did a man walk the planet? Yes or no?
By the way, it sounds just like some sort of a communist would behave, that keep telling someone to stop every time he makes a point. It's just mental control, that's all it is. Destruction. Division.
He came down in flesh. Yes, he did.
Was he a man or was
I'm
he a
answering
spirit?
your question.
You're not. You're going around. Was he a man or was he a spirit?
Jesus is the man that walked on.
Okay.
And
He
what
had 2 feet. Hold, stop.
Okay.
He had 2 feet.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
He had 2 hands.
Yes,
right?
he did.
What color was his skin?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Why do white people like that run around? Hold on. No. It doesn't matter. Stop. If it doesn't matter, then why do white people like that run around the world to think everything white? If it doesn't matter, brother.
It's not what you think, it's what God thinks. It's what God thinks.
They can say that. They benefit from the white supremacy. You don't, brother.
I'm a Jew. I'm a Jew.
You're not a Jew. You're a Jew of the Bible. The Jew is dark-skinned people. How the fuck are you a Jew? You're a devil the Bible speaks about.
It's a spiritual thing.
Now, normally I would not tell people that I'm a Jew because I am a Gentile, although I am grafted into Israel. And normally that's what I would tell people. But for certain people like Jehovah's Witnesses, I do test people like that, and I do. In this situation, I thought it was appropriate to tell him that. I'm not trying to take anybody's identity. But my point was, if he's the Jew, then why is he not Torah observant right now? According to what we were reading here in Deuteronomy and Nitzavim, why is he not observant?
No matter your stuff. The original Jews is black, yo. The original Jews is black. All right. I know you stole a group of people and you stole their name and their religion. Hold on, stop. You don't see nothing wrong with that? You hold on. You see nothing wrong? When you steal, hold on, stop. You don't see. I'm off balance. When you steal a group of people and take the identity. Right. When you steal a group of people and take the identity, what do you call that? Let's be honest with ourselves, man. Be honest for one time in your life. When you steal somebody, identity, you throw them in slavery, what do you call that? I'm asking you that.
This man over here talks about black and white. No. God is not like that. God is a spirit, and we worship him in spirit and in truth. I'm not a racist. The only race I'm running is the Christian race. Only race that I'm running is for heaven. Heaven is a spiritual place. Heaven is a place that's prepared for us. You say, in my Father's house are many mansions. For you to get to heaven, you got to have love.
They brought for the white supremacy, yo. He said you got white. He said you gonna lie to you and you're a fucking fool.
Now, at this point, a lot of people that are sitting there in this square in this park here, they're starting to get tired of this. The cops were there. Those sirens weren't for us, but there were cops present, looking out, dealing with other issues, arresting other folks. A lot of the people who he knew were trying to pull him out of this conversation, and out of whether or not they agreed with him or not, they were getting tired of this man's rabid nature.
You are cool. No, you're not. You're cool. No, you're not. You're cool.
No, I'm a child of God. You got hate in your heart.
Yeah, you cool. You're right. You're right.
You got hate in your heart.
Yeah, for cool like you. Because you're cool like you. Yeah, I'm black. I just told you I'm black. Tell you a liar like Jisoo? Tell you a liar?
All right.
I just told you I'm black.
Where you get your information
I have to tell you that.
Where you get your information from?
Dr. Wanoku Rashidi. Dr. Akbar.
That was a great question, by the way. Now here comes a woman that we've been preaching to out there, who's very supportive of us. She's a black lady, middle-aged woman who's trying to look out for the neighborhood there.
Poison.
All right, good. Listen, Dr. Wanoku Rashidi, Dr. Oswald Quady, Dr. Dr. Henry Clark, and Dr. Ben Chowman. Them brothers, they are black and they are elders. And they went to study in Egypt. And they explain where all that stuff comes from, black. Not these two fucking clowns. They clowns, yo. Come on to your own people, yo. They fucking clowns, yo.
So how come you're not preaching the gospel then? If you got so much truth in you,
I don't teach to y'all. I don't teach to my own people.
Right.
You know what I'm
saying? So why aren't you doing it?
I am. I'm not in Cambridge. My people not in Cambridge. My people in Dorchester. That's where I'm coming from. We have a lot of we have a lot of self-hatred. Hold on. We have a lot of self-hatred in the black community. I know y'all don't care, but I got a lot of self. Hold on. We got a lot of self-hatred in the black community, and that's what I deal with every day, right? Okay. He's the prime reason why we can't go nowhere. And y'all two, it teaches him some bullshit, yo.
How?
Because you're sitting there and telling him, right?
You're not. Hold on, how do you know what I do? You've never seen me before today.
All right. Are you part of that? Be honest. Are you part of them? Yes or no?
I preach with them.
I preach
with them, but we all belong to different fellowships. We don't belong to the same fellowships.
I know, but
I preach with them.
All right.
But I preach with them.
So you say not part of that? You preach with them?
I preach with them. Are you asking me about where I go to fellowship, or are you asking me am I part of this ministry? Yes, I am a part of this ministry.
I say you're part of him. No matter if it's a ministry or a tent. I say, are you part of him. And you telling me, no, you're not part of him.
No, I am a part of, I thought you were asking about fellowship. I was clear. I thought you were asking like fellowship. Are we part of the same church?
I would never go to your white Christian church. I would never do that. Because you affect the Bible. You do go to white church.
Ask Mike how many white people go to this church.
Just like he said, after what color was Jesus Christ? Stop. After what color is Jesus Christ? And he got to say something to appease you about saying it doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, then why do white people like you? Be honest with yourself. I know you can laugh.
I don't have no idols in my house, bro. I don't have any white Jesus. I don't have no white Jesus.
No church got white Jesus in the world. No church.
I'm sure they do. Yeah, I know. I get that. There are just people who make.
So you know what time it is? Hold on. So you know what time it is? Hold on. I like to think I asked to do. I said,
let's go for it. Let's not disrupt it.
If
you want to speak, let's speak simply. Listen, I got asked.
And that's it. God is love. The Bible says, love your enemies. Love your enemies. If you're Hispanic, if you're Puerto Rican, if you're Asian, if you're...
So you're getting the idea here. And now, as far as Vocab Malone goes, who does a great job explaining it, he has a book. First of all, his YouTube channel is Backpack Radio Live with Vocab Malone. It's on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live streamed. So there's uploads all the time. He calls himself an urban apologist, urban apologetics, which is very interesting. I've actually never heard that before. I mean, I've heard urban ministries, but urban apologetics, of course. I mean, you look at. I mean, going back when I was running around, I mean, all of this was still very prevalent. You know, very prevalent in the streets with people who, you know, they don't feel good about themselves. They don't feel good about their situation, and they have to have somebody to blame. You know, this type of, I mean, so here we go. Vocab Malone on Dr. White, Hebrew Israelism 2018. We have some parodies and skits that he does, kind of funny. We have one video that's called Most Respectful Debate Ever, because as you can see that a lot of these people are very vicious. A lot of these people are very hateful and disrespectful and vicious. But this person seems to be able to sit down and have a conversation with him. You know, so I'll just a little taste of what he does. I'll give you a little taste here.
Oh, shy. How may I help you? Well, just call him an Edomite, a cracker. Oh, he's black.
It's supposed to be a private eye.
Call him a coon. Call him a coon. Works every time. Call him a coon. Yes. Private eye for Yahweh Shai at your service. Shalom, Holmes.
Preach! Preach the word! First Apocrypha 1:11. Edomites
Of course, they all preach like
gonna
this.
be my slave. Yo, you Edomite white boy, you white devil. You gotta vacuum my couch in the future, yo. Yeah, you hear me? And I like it real clean, real clean. First Apocrypha 1:19. The Edomite gonna be a slave.
Shalom, Holmes.
Shalom, there.
Yo, your name is Chief Priest Ben Samurai, correct?
Yeah.
I'm Private Eye for Yahweh Shai at your service. How may I help you? What's the problem?
Yeah. So I was at camp last week, right?
Mm-hmm. Con?
Yeah, this white boy came up and started talking about the new covenant. You feel me?
Ooh, new covenant.
Yeah, and I didn't know what to say, so I need your help, homie.
Okay, excellent. Let's put a stop to this before it gets to be a real problem. We want to stop this before next week's camp, okay? Do you have any evidence about this Edomite that could help me stop him dead in his tracks?
Yeah, the only thing I got, homeboy was taking off and he dropped this picture of his kid.
A picture of a child?
Yeah.
Excellent. Is he a minor?
Yeah.
Oh, Con. Yahweh Shai has blessed us. Bashem. Okay, let's meet here.
Doubt.
1 week from today, again, your problems will be solved.
All right. Shalom down. Back to First Apocrypha. Preach the word, farm.
Holmes, Barber, Kawasaki,
Shalom, Holmes.
Shalom, yeah.
I've looked into your particular problem.
Yeah.
Couldn't find any information about this particular Edomite, but I've got a surefire method that works every time.
Word?
Indubitably. So, here's what you're going to do. When you see him next time, you call him a homosexual. Yes, a sodomite. Sodomite. Someone who loves men. Yes, when you see the Edomite, you just say, he's gay.
Word.
Trust me. All the other camps do it. All the Israelites do it. It's almost like a rite of passage or something.
But what about, like, arguing from the King James?
Arguments. King James. I mean, who needs all that? Listen, would the private eye for your Hawashai lead you astray? No, I wouldn't.
Oh, word. Well, yo, I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Well, hey, I got an idea. Why don't you just do a commercial for this? You help me out, you can help other people out. You feel me?
You're right. The camps need to know about my services as the private eye for Yahushai.
Yeah, no doubt.
Indubitably, elementary. Yeah, Shalom, Holmes.
Shalom.
Kawasaki.
Shalom, Holmes. I need the help of the private eye for Yahushai. I got this brother that ain't woke yet. I keep hitting him with Deuteronomy 28, the correct breakdown. But he keep coming back to me with the Hebrew. What do I do? I need your help, private eye for Yahushai. I need your help.
Live good cheer. Private eye for Yahushai is on the case.
Hey, yo, thanks, Ak. Ever since you sent me that picture of his white wife, I don't even have to use the Bible. I just ask him about his white wife. Private eye for Yahushai. I recommend him to anyone.
Shalom, Holmes. Look, man, my cousin, man, he's still stuck in the white man religion. He ain't woke up yet. Look, he keep bringing me these verses from Revelation talking about every nation, tribe, and tongue. Man, it's making it sound like everybody can be saved. I need help from the private eye for Yahushai.
Private eye for Yahushai at your service. Shalom, Holmes.
Hey, thanks, private eye for Yahushai. Look, I don't even need to give him answers for Revelation. Look, he told me all this information about my cousin. Hey, he got a 375 credit score. Chapter 13, bankruptcy, baby. Hey, look, thank you, private eye for Yahushai. Kwam Yasharallah!
Indubitably. Elementary. Oh. Private eye for Yahushai. How may I help you? Yes, Shalom, Holmes. Just a minute. What's your tribe? I'm Ephraim myself. What's your camp? Are you Eisegesis? Okay. Are there any particular camps who are enemies of yours? Oh, yes, the ISUCK. Yes, the ISUCK. Okay. What seems to be the problem? Oh, now that is a problem. Don't worry. Live good cheer. Private eye for Yahushai is on the case. 1 week from today, same time.
Okay. Shalom there.
So that was just a little bit of what he does. That's just a few parody videos that he has here, but he has a book called Barack Obama versus the Black Hebrew Israelites. From Amazon, you can see that in the fall of '81, a 21-year-old college student arrived in New York City to attend Columbia. The student's named Barack Obama. In 2016, Netflix released Barry, a film chronicling young Obama's journey. One scene in which Barry shows the man who would later become the president debating a religious proselytizer on the street. This man was a black Hebrew Israelite. kind of interesting. The Black Hebrew Israelite movement began in 1969 and was headquartered 1 West 125th Street in Harlem. Now, this is the focus of a lot of his books. 125th Street in Harlem, near Obama's apartment on West 109th, between Amsterdam and Columbus. Seems like Obama's gotten around. He used to live here in Somerville too, when he went to Harvard. And headquartered 125th, near Obama's apartment on 109 between Amsterdam and Columbus. I know Columbus. Christian apologist and researcher Vocab Malone creatively uses this mini debate as a launching pad to explore this militant and mysterious sect. The timing is just right, as his faith has been spreading like wildfire in most major city centers across the U.S. This book fills a void, as there are no major works on 1 West Hebrew Israelism. Now a primer exists in Barack Obama versus the Black Hebrew Israelites by Vocab Malone. Very, very interesting stuff. And just so we can finish up our Torah portion here, I'm going to just summarize. But first we're going to go to the Brit Hadashah here. Isaiah said these things because he saw his glory spoke of him. This is John 12:41-50. Nevertheless, many even of the authorities believed in him, but for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so that they would not be put out of the synagogue, for they love the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God. And it seems this man is so consumed with racial stereotyping and worldly elevation, because he talks about the white man becoming the slave and all of those type of things. And Jesus cried out and said, whoever believes in me, believes not in me, but in him who sent me. It's kind of interesting, actually. We're going to have to go a little bit deeper on that. And whoever sees me, sees him who sent me. I have come into the world as light, so that whoever believes in me may not remain in darkness. And if anyone hears my words and does not keep them, I do not judge him, for I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. The one who rejects me and does not receive my words has a judge. The word that I have spoken will judge him on the last day. For I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me has himself given me a commandment, what to say and what to speak. And I know that his commandment is eternal life. What I say, therefore, I say as the Father has told me. Well, it seems by this, of course, we see the Trinity in action here. Something that we don't quite understand yet. It just seems like he's going back to Deuteronomy here, talking about the heart and talking about Isaiah here, 61:10, 63:9, which is the Haftarah. Talking about salvation. For Zion's sake I will not keep silent, for Yerushalayim's sake I will not be quiet, until her righteousness goes forth as brightness, and her salvation as a burning torch. The nations shall see your righteousness, and all the kings your glory, and you shall be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will give. You shall be a crown of beauty in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the hand of your God. You shall no more be termed forsaken, and your land shall no more be termed desolate, but you shall be called, my delight is in her, and your land married. For the Lord delights in you, and your land shall be married. For as a young man marries a young woman, so shall your sons marry you. And as a bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you. On your walls, O Jerusalem, I have set watchmen. All the days and all the night, they shall never be silent. You who put the Lord to remembrance, take no rest and give him no rest until he establishes Yerushalayim and makes it a praise in the earth. The Lord has sworn by his right hand and by his mighty arm, I will not again give you grain to be food for your enemies, and foreigners shall not drink your wine for which you have labored, but those who garner it shall eat it and praise the Lord. Those who gather it shall drink it in the courts of my sanctuary. And 63:1 talks about the day of vengeance on his enemies. So it seems like everything's being reversed here in Isaiah. Prophesy about everything. This is not the whole portion here, but basically it's just a reverse of Deuteronomy. The promises spoken about are coming to, in the day of forgiveness, in the day of restoration from the exile, and in the last part of the portion, he gives a choice to follow that commandment, as Yeshua had mentioned. For this commandment that I command you today is not too hard for you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven, that you should say, who will ascend to heaven for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it? Neither is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who will go over to the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it? But the word is very near you, and in your mouth and in your hearts, that you can do it. Because it's a heart matter. See, I've said before you today, life, good, death, and evil. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I command you today, by loving the Lord your God, by walking in his ways and keeping his commandments and his statutes and his rules, then you shall live and multiply. The Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to take possession of it. But if your heart turns away and you will not hear, but are drawn away to worship other gods and serve them, this is the main thing, not the racial problems, not Jew versus Gentile, but this concerns everyone that was among them. However, the patriarchs are mentioned. And so this is the main issue. The main issue is obedience to the Lord himself, to follow the commandments of love. I hope this has blessed you. I hope this has made you think. I hope this has made you better, and I hope that I've inspired you to look a little bit further and even illuminate your eyes to see what is going on in the world today and what kind of strange doctrines are coming out of the woodwork as all things are being restored and the commandments are finally being obeyed by those who love him through the Holy Spirit, through Yeshua, giving us that victory and that power over all hatred, all disobedience. And one day we will have our justice. Thank you and God bless. Have a great week. Right on time.
Today the world is born. 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 Today